My name is Margarida. I'm a researcher, a Portuguese researcher at the Center for Intercultural Studies in Porto. And today I'll be facilitating the workshop Climate, Vulnerable Territories, Memory, Identity and Resilience in Contexts of Environmental Change. This workshop has been organized by the Young Researchers Council of the SHiFT cross-section. I'm not sure. Okay. It changed for you? Okay. Yeah. So who are we? The SHiFT Young Researchers Council is a team of early career researchers and professionals from the SHiFT cross-section network that dedicates to fostering communities, strengthening collaboration, and showcasing creativity, innovation, and cross-cutting contributions of young researchers. We have had a lot of events in the last 2 years, more or less, and this is one of the events that are part of the Young Researchers Council as well. So, today's event agenda. This workshop includes 3 excellent speakers who will bring different perspectives on the themes of climate vulnerability, memory, identity, and resilience. We will have Elena Todorava representing the cross-section Margistar, Emma Bacik representing the cross-section Transformers, and Irene Cristoforidi representing the cross-section Smiles. And each of these speakers will share their insights and work and also case studies from their specific work, followed by moments for questions and discussion with all of you. And this will allow us to connect with different contributions and reflect collectively on issues raised throughout the session as well. So this is also to say that the people that are participating, your voice also matters. So feel free to send your questions in the chat and at any time. Also, maybe preferably after the presentations end, because it's better to avoid some confusion, but feel free to show your voice and to ask anything, engage with speakers, and let's learn all together. Okay, so this is mainly the first part of the presentation of the session, and now I will present the first speaker, Elena Todorava. That's maybe she can also start to share her presentation while I'll present her work. So Elena is an amazing researcher, senior assistant at the Forest Research Institute from Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, specializing in socio-ecological systems, regional development, GIS, and environmental governance. Elena holds a PhD in Earth Sciences, Social and Economic Geography from Sofia University, where she also completed her master's and bachelor's degree in regional development and politics. Her work integrates human-nature relations, territorial planning, and sustainability research. She is also an author of peer-reviewed publications in several international journals and is actively involved in scientific projects and international cross-sections. She is the principal investigator of the project Socio-Ecologic Study of Marginalized Mountain Areas, and it is engaged in interdisciplinary collaborations across forestry, ecology, and sustainable regional development. Today, she will walk us through local knowledge and endogenous potential for enhancing resilience in mountain regions, focusing on how local perspectives and endogenous potential play a key role in fostering resilience, marginalized mountain and rural areas. She will present an amazing case study about Velingrad municipality in Bulgaria. And building on territorial identity and local knowledge systems, Elena's contribution highlights the importance of community-based approaches and participatory governance. It highlights the philosophy of Margistar cross-section as well, and which promotes innovative and sustainable pathways. So this is mainly to revitalize peripheral mountain regions through transdisciplinary collaboration and local engagement. I've had the pleasure to work with Elena several times, and I guarantee you this will be an amazing presentation. So I'll pass the word to Elena.
Oh, thank you, Ana. This was an amazing introduction. Thank you. I'm really flattered, and I'm so glad and happy to be here. Now, I want you to tell me if you see my presentation and if everything is fine.
Yes.
Okay, I'm putting into full screen. and I'm ready to start. It takes some time, and if I have any problems with the internet, please let me know because sometimes it happens with me. Okay, just a few moments. Okay, maybe now it will work. Now, you see it?
Perfect. Yes.
Perfect, great. So after this great introduction, I'm totally ready to start. And I'm actually starting with a few words about Margistar. You already understood a little bit about it from Anna's words. Margistar is focusing about marginalized mountain areas. Actually, I've been working for this cost action ever since I got into academia, which was like 3 years ago. So Margistar has really special sense for me because I grew up with this cost action and I did my first project here. So I'm really, really flattered that I'll be able to show it to you today. So Margistar is really an interdisciplinary work because marginalized mountain areas, they have so many different kind of problems touch basing demography, economy, climate change, cultural identities, tourism, land use, so many different things, forests as well. So really, there are all kind of scientists here who are working together and collaborating to make move forward to this transformative change. And after so many things we've done together, we have also came up with some innovative concepts on the way, which are related to pinching policymakers, which is a way to interact with them and make them communicate better the potentially transformative initiatives that can be done towards this purpose. And the other one is related to polytraps. As you have already heard, marginalized mountain areas really have all different kind of problems that are, and this is a concept based on the resilience concept and the traps that are formed there. And actually this one is enhancing a little bit further, talking about concurrent traps and maladaptive processes and how all these collaborate to make the mountains areas really more vulnerable. And when you hear me talking about this, maybe you can see that actually Margistar has a lot of shared ideas with the SHiFT code section. The artificial intelligence made this nice visualization for us where we can really see how it's all about human nature system making a way forward to transformative change, leaning on local knowledge and how essential it is, and how essential it is to make this multi-actor collaboration, which is a very important move forward. So I think that it's very nice that we are here today together and can collaborate and share what we have done so far. So after you have this background, how communities in climate vulnerable territories perceive and narrate environmental change. To get a little bit deeper into this topic, I would like to tell you more about this case study that I've been working on in the past few years. It's, as you have already heard from Anna's introduction, it's a small place in the Rhodope Mountains in Bulgaria, but it's very diverse, and that's why it's my favorite, by the way, because here in the mountainous part, high up in the mountain, we have these mountain villages with very interesting population. Those people are Muslims, and they live in these small communities, and they have preserved the way of life of their ancestors, leaning very much on forests and on livestock breeding, and they have their traditional clothing and way of life. And it's very interesting in demographical point of view because, usually small villages don't last long, especially if they have only 50, 60 residents, which is the case very often for these villages. But those here, they preserve their population. And it's totally based on their culture and way of life. They even marry among each other and don't leave their communities so often. And leaving the other side, on the other hand, we had Velingrad, a small place, a small town. It's like 20, 30,000 people. But the interesting thing there is that there is flourishing tourism based on the mineral waters that these places have. And the tourism is based in big, luxurious hotels, very fancy, very expensive. And this place is called the spa capital of the Balkans. So you can see the contrast here already, right? So if we want to understand how local people think, where their knowledge comes from, and what their perceptions are, I think that we can go back a little bit in history. So that's why I have made this one for you, so that I can tell you in short this long story of trade-offs and collaboration of this coupled human nature system. So going back in the end of the 19th century, that's where Bulgaria got liberated from the Ottoman Empire. So we had to start everything from scratch. So we start cutting down trees for railroad building, all kind of building. So, and we start clearing for agriculture. So we had wonderful oak forests over there, but everything got cleared. And later on in the 1950s, we realized that erosion and big disturbances are going on, so we need to reforest. That's where forest management began, and that's where communist time began. So a little bit of different structure and way of management was introduced. So in this place, pine forests were planted, and the plantations were really massive. I mean, it was a very important moment that I want to emphasize, because everybody planted, not only the forest managers, the forest engineers, but all the people. Pupils from schools went and forested. People were like obliged from state to go and forest. So actually, at the end, this was their forest. And there's a very nice example. In 1961, there was a very strong wind, I mean, devastating, and a lot of trees fell down, and many forests were destroyed. So, with the help of everybody, all the people, all the foresters, the land was cleared and replanted in like less than a year, which was really amazing. So, but in the same time, we continued this active use of forests, because in communist times, we had to have all kind of industries that were based on the resources that we have. So forests were really, really used for industry. And then after 1989, our economic profile changed drastically. And these were like kind of dark ages for us, because laws didn't really matter, especially in the beginning of the 21st, of the end of the 20th century, actually, or at least they didn't matter for everybody. So a lot of illegal logging happened. Now, forest management, it really lost its power. So the forests were not managed that well. Calamities, pollution, biodiversity loss started happening very abruptly. And you can see how many disturbances we have throughout this history we have here, and how flexible and adaptive this natural system has been to all this anthropogenic influence that happened to it. But now we also have climate change, right? So this is one big disturbance happening as well. So what do we do now? Are we ready for it? That's why I wanted to ask the people. Oh, I'm sorry so much. Sorry for that. So I wanted to ask people to better understand the perspectives on these development conflicts going on there. I mean, forestry, tourism, poor people, demography collapsing, a lot of potential for this place because of these amazing natural resources that it has. But in the same time, the economy and demography, they're like collapsing. What is going on? So that's why I asked the people. My topic was the opportunities and the challenges of this territory. And I use this Q methodology. It's a very interesting methodology that it really originated in psychology in the 1930s by William Stevenson. It's his inventor, but it really has application in different kind of spheres, and I think it's very nicely fits socio-ecological researches. Sorry again. So how does it work? Here you can see this matrix, right, on my screen. This is the one that you really have to fill in. So you make these interviews with the respondents and you make them fit statements in this matrix, whether they agree or disagree with these statements. And they should have to show the degree of disagreement or agreement by fitting this in the scale of -5 to 5. It is quite nice because at the end, those people, they have a certain amount of boxes. So they have to prioritize and see which statements are more important for them. And that's really the part I like for this methodology. It's quite complex, by the way, but it worked really well, I think, for this study. So here are the steps. I'll go very fastly through them. First, you have to make this concourse, a state of statements. It's a really big one. And you have to downsize it to like in my example, 41 statements, which was quite hard because that's where you need to prioritize and make and see which the most important statements are. And that's when I used the driver pressure state impact responses framework because I really wanted to make it nice and real, because this is really the heart and soul of this research to make your statements right. At least I think so. So after this, you make your interviews, and at the end, you process by using factor analysis. But first, let me emphasize a little bit about this part with the DPSIR and the statements. So first, I went through all kind of plans, strategies, programs, researches done in this area. I talked with the local stakeholders to get all the information that I can get from um, objective and subjective data, statistical data, quantitative, qualitative, all kinds, so that I can make this concourse, this big list of statements. So then I started arranging them in this matrix of drivers, pressures, states, and impacts, so that I can, see where the big problems and challenges and opportunities are. And at the end, I got to the responses. I mean, how this coupled human nature system works and how it responds to all these drivers and the way they impact this system. So I made this list of the possible responses of this system and the responses that are happening, so that I have this very neat and black and white picture of what is going on in this place. And after I had this black and white picture, I started asking my participants about it, because that's where you put the colors on it. So I got to the interviews, and this is like part of the interview process that you see on the picture over here. And this is how this list of statements starts fitting in this table one by one. This was done like in a kind of interview, and while people were arranging all these statements, we were talking and discussing, and I really got to get them deeper into the topic and think about it. And after the exercise, they said, well, it was quite tiring because I had to think a lot, but actually it was nice to think about it because I don't think about it every day, but I should. And yeah, that's really, really nice. And I really enjoyed making these interviews. There were actually 26 of them. I made interviews with 26 people that were with very different backgrounds, like administration, agriculture, business, culture, environmental activism, education, forestry, industry, journalists, tourism, of course. So I got to see all kind of points of view. So after doing all these interviews, I got all this processed by using factor analysis. And after the factor analysis, I had these three perspectives that have the people belong to, because I forgot to mention in the beginning, but the Q methodology is not about seeing how many people like find a statement truthful, but it's about seeing what kind of opinions those people belong to. So here are the main opinions, the factors, perspectives of those people. So the first one, this is the most optimistic one. It's about balance between people and nature. People here, by the way, all the people from forestry and the people from the villages that I interviewed belong to this point of view, which was quite interesting. They thought that for Velingrad to develop, there must be a balance between people and nature, and that it is achievable. And they thought that small settlements have their potential, and they can be developed, and there is future for them. The second one was focused more about management. They thought that this can be a problem, but a solution as well. They don't see management doing very nice right now, but they think that local incentives and local people can make the change. Like, for example, they thought that alternative tourism and local initiatives are the key to change, that if young people take more advantage of opportunities in agriculture, this would work well. So they thought that these kind of incentives coming from people can really work to change the current situation. And the last perspective, it is pretty pessimistic. People here, they said that neither tourism nor forestry is managed well, and they think that the main problems facing the forest do not stem from climate change or illegal logging, but from management and political influence. And this is a very important point that I will touch later on, because the political influence is something really disturbing this system, I think. So what do these perspectives tell us? It's very nice to see the consensus statements where people really stick to one idea, and all of them think that management of tourism and forests, they do not work well. The controversial statements were about tourism and ecology, a very important idea that came from this research as well, because, tourism gives this place money, and ecology is something that is far away from these people because they are poor. And when you are poor and you think of what you can eat today and how to provide a decent future for your kids, ecology lacks stays in the background and it's not so important. So these two ideas here have a big conflict exactly because of this, and this is very sad. Um, so um, because I'm ahead of time, maybe I should go on with what does this mean for the roles of memory, identity, and place in shaping responses. Actually, I already introduced the history and I already introduced this study, and I made this both things with a purpose, because these things that people think, their perspectives, they are embedded in locally situated knowledge systems, and those systems have co-evolved with shared values and collective experiences. I mean, they are diverse and changing over time, and are based on different ways of thinking of the different things that people have lived through, of all those communist times and those poverty times and those tourism development. I mean, they are changing, and all this reflects in the way people think and the way people behave. And I think that these insights are very important to understand these people, and if we want to know more about the reasoning beyond their perception, then the historical background, this collective memory, it's very important, because that's when you can really try to shape and channel these ways of thinking into sustainable thinking. So my point of view is that you really have to understand those people if you want to make any change in those places. So one more important and last important point of view, it's about the political influence that I have already emphasized. The belief that politicians have a profound influence on forestry, it like worked all through the way in all those interviews. And I saw that people have the sense that nothing depends on them. And this is actually confirmed by the hesitant perception of the problems in the forest, because all the people they said that they had this general sense that something is not right, but no specific idea what this is. Their answers were really diverse, and for example, they put this. Uh, it is not well managed like in five. Yes, I totally agree with this. But when there were a list of problems that there were in forestry, well, they got into the middle of of this matrix where people really don't attach to these statements. So this was really indicative, and these concurrent perceptions may also be the results of the memories from the past century, especially for the older generations when people were collectively involved in forestry during communist times and had more time and more trust in these systems because they were part of it. And this aligns with a few concepts for Eleanor Ostrom, for example, who says that collective efficiency and trust in institutions are vital for resource stewardship. And also with Murray Bookchin's theory that helps explain the detachment as a form of political and ecological alienation. What I mean is that people understand that are not working right, but they feel helpless to fix them. And this is loss of local energy. And same happens with tourism over there because of the concentrations of resources and power in the luxurious hotels. People also feel that they have no power to change any of this. So now I'm going to the end of my presentation. And as a conclusion, I just want to say that if we want to make change in small mountainous places like this, in the way people think, we really need to understand their culture and their way of thinking, and we need this uh, uh, context-based policies and way of transformation so that it all really works. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope I fit it in the time. Thanks. And I'm ready for any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Elena. It was an amazing presentation. And now we have some space for questions. If you have any question, please raise your hands or speak. Yeah. Okay. You can also ask the questions at the end of all presentations if you prefer. So yeah, but I can ask a small question, maybe if anyone else has no questions. I wanted to ask Elena, because we did some field work in Portugal, in the mountain of Serra da Estrela. And I wanted to ask if you find that there are some similarities or differences between these communities, the Portuguese ones and Bulgarian ones, and also between the politicians.
Oh, it's a very nice question, Anna. Actually, yes, it was very interesting for me to make this parallel because actually what we did with Anna was in a small mountainous place that also has this tourism potential, amazing forests and mineral water, so it's quite similar. But the thing is that when we asked people there what kind of tourism do you see happening here, and they all said we don't want big luxurious hotels coming here. We want our small hotels, small business and going on because we want the tourism money to come in our homes, not for people from outside. And I thought that this was quite smart of them, and they were really prudent because I can see what happened in Belgrade working things the other way around. So yeah, the parallel is there. We used different kind of methodology, but yeah, I can see things going on in quite similar direction in terms of policy as well, because I saw that people also had this mistrust in politicians, maybe because they felt a little bit apart from them. Um, and because the maybe the system is very complex with many institutions that were not that well coordinated. So yeah, I can see many parallels, which is very interesting because we are very different kind of countries and cultures, but we can see that yeah, parallels exist. Thank you so much for this question.
Yeah, thank you also for the answer. So if no one else has any questions right now, you still can ask later. So we will pass on to the next presentation, which is another amazing speaker, Emma. Emma holds a PhD in sociology, and Emma, if you want to, you can start to share the presentation, and I will present you and your work. So Emma holds a PhD in sociology. Her research focuses on rural sociology, culture, and rural mountainous areas. The doctoral research explored cultural and creative industries in Croatia's rural region of Lika as indicators of modernization and sustainable development, examining the role of culture in shaping local resilience, community identity, and development strategies in the context of broader social and environmental change. So today, Emma will show us some insights about cultural and creative industries as drivers of sustainable transformation in rural peripheries, lessons from Croatia's Lika region. Rural and peripheral regions often remain marginalized in dominant sustainability transformation research, despite holding significant potential rooted in local identity, cultural heritage, and place-based knowledge. So, drawing from her PhD research conducted in Lika, a mountainous rural region, as I mentioned, and marked by demographic decline and delayed modernization, this contribution from Emma explores cultural and creative industries as potential drivers of sustainable developments. The presentation aligns with the Transformers Cost Action Framework for future sustainability transformations, exploring how culturally grounded, place-based approaches can inform more just and territorial sensitive transformation pathways, particularly in post-socialist and peripheral European contexts. And I will give the word to amazing Emma.
Thank you very much for this introduction, and thank you also for the invitation. I really appreciate it to be here. I hope you can hear me and that you can see the slides.
Yes.
As Ana Margarida has already introduced my topic, I want to continue on that and saying that actually for this presentation, I decided to show the results from my PhD research, which was modernization and sustainable development in rural areas, cultural and creative industries in Croatia's rural region of Lika. For this purpose, I collected different kinds of data, but for this presentation, I'm going to focus on primary data that consist of 21 semi-structured interviews with cultural and creative practitioners in the region and 6 semi-structured interviews with experts involved in cultural policy making, strategic development, and promotion of cultural content, both in this region, but also in other, let's say, more developed rural regions in Croatia. The collected data were analyzed using the reflexive thematic analysis and MaxQDA software. So according to the mapping, there are 12 different sectors of cultural and creative industries in Croatia, but findings from this research showed that CCIs in Lika usually include only sectors of museums, libraries and heritage, visual arts and traditional and artistic crafts, which is also in line with some previous research conducted in other rural areas in Europe and beyond. So the research shows that there is a heterogeneous and spatially dispersed network of actors within cultural institutions, small enterprises, crafts, NGOs, family farms, and home-based businesses. The CCI workers show great enthusiasm and professional versatility, and therefore a blending form of formal and informal work practices. However, they are constrained by limited institutional capacity, unstable funding, and in some cases, spatial isolation. Some of you had already a chance to visit this region, but for those who have not, you can see on the map where it's actually located. It's in the middle part of Croatia in the mountainous area. And this region consists of 2 small towns and 8 municipalities. This region is facing a big demographic decline. So in the past 15 years, it has lost a lot of its inhabitants. Today I'm also presenting a cost action. This is actually the first cost action that I've ever participated in. It's Transformations International Experience and Research Network for Sustainable Futures, and I'm actually part of the working group Future Sustainability Transformations, whose aim is to find out how to foster transformative processes, particularly in contexts that are frequently overlooked in current transformation research and policy making, like those in rural areas, and especially the region I'm talking about. When I'm speaking about sustainable development, I decided also to highlight this definition that is probably familiar for most of you. It's the Brundtland definition of sustainable development, which emphasizes actually that there is a need to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In order to actually contribute to this working group and its aims, how to actually contribute to it is by showing these empirical insights from my research, how there is a possibility for rural cultural transformations, and showing that there is a need and possibility for grounded strategies for more livable, inclusive, and sustainable rural futures. In this case, CCIs play a key role in shaping local resilience, identity, and sustainability. When speaking about sustainable development, another important theoretical framework for my research was the one developed by scholars from Latvian Academy of Culture. They actually showed how there is a contribution of CCIs to 4 pillars of sustainable development in small towns. So they see a contribution of CCIs to economic pillar in creating jobs and creating innovation, to environmental pillar by greening of operations. That means actually using the alternative resources and similar strategies. Contribution to the social pillar is visible in the improving the quality of communities, and to the cultural pillar by ensuring continuity and diversity. In my research, I actually found out these codes. This is a coding map of contribution of CCIs to the sustainable development in this particular region. Its contribution to economic pillar is visible in cultural and creative tourism, authentic souvenirs, NGOs that deal as employment space, among others, globalization, and also secondary or post-career activity, given the fact that most cultural and creative workers do not work in CCIs as primary career activity, and some of them are also decided to pursue the work in culture after their retirement. Contribution to the social pillar is visible in improving inclusivity, social cohesion, but also in social entrepreneurship and by taking part in humanitarian activities. So its contribution to the environmental pillar is actually seen in the fact that those who work in CCIs in rural regions, and therefore also in Lika, those are mostly small scaled producers, and they are by default, they have a low environmental impact by default because they do not include in industrial cultural work. They are also dealing as a big the ones who are actually spreading the awareness by doing eco-conscious practices, for example, using natural, recycled, and biodegradable materials. And there is a big emphasis on traditional and chemical-free techniques. For example, wool was a big problem in this region, and they decided to transform it from waste into valuable resource. And they are doing the same thing also with some textiles and old furniture. Art is also can be seen as a big key factor in ecological education, because there are land art workshops with children, and also nature-themed workshops and exhibitions that again spread this ecological awareness. So cultural and creative industries can be definitely seen as an important medium for climate and sustainability awareness. Working and living in this kind of setting, cultural and creative workers see as a big artistic inspiration as well. That's why landscapes and rural motifs are central in their visual arts. But there is also a strong emotional connection to these natural surroundings. Its contribution to the cultural pillar is mostly seen in heritage preservation and promotion. They show great respect for tradition as personal value, even those artists who are engaged in more contemporary sectors of cultural and creative industries, and they do not integrate heritage into their work, but they still have big respect for it. And some of them also try to reinterpret it by using some technologies. And also, there were some examples of including, for example, folk costumes and illustrations, and in that case, also preserving them in a totally other form. And some of them also include, for example, local legends in comic workshops. NGOs and institutions.
Sorry to interrupt, Emma. Sorry, Cristiano asked if you can please close the bottom icon. I'm not sure. That one. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. NGOs and institutions are also cultural custodians. They are organizing projects dedicated to preserving and promoting identity. They are also helping with archiving intangible heritage, passing the education on to younger generations, but also by organizing exhibitions that are showcasing tangible and intangible heritage. NGOs are also helping with making places more visual appealing by making murals, organizing events, and establishing community centers as tools of local revitalization. There is a strong amateur scene valued for creativity and social capital. And this amateur scene is sometimes more visited than the institutional one, because there is still this kind of perception of culture as elitist, like the one which is not. Sometimes people say that they don't feel welcome to go to museums, and therefore there is a need and call for more inclusive and locally grounded cultural policies as well. And the other thing that they are also doing, and it's making an important thing for revitalization, is the reuse of existing infrastructure for cultural purposes. To conclude, also when we are talking about the expert interviews, but also interviews with other experts, cultural and creative practitioners, they see a high potential for local development when it's linked with the different sectors. So as key sectors to connect with, they see gastronomy, design, rural and wellness tourism, but they also see film as a great branding tool for region and country. Opportunities are identified in revitalizing ruins and heritage sites, green routes. There was also a word about theater and heritage paths, for example, and especially cultural and health tourism, because they see artwork as therapy. But there is also a need for development strategies for more livable futures, because the ones that are already existing, they just mention a big potential of culture for the development, but they do not offer concrete measures or concrete plans on how to actually include it. So cultural and creative industries are seen as connectors because they link identity, creativity, entrepreneurship, and market. But as I already said, there is a need for integrated development models. For example, the one could be that combines bottom-up and a top-down approach, and which would be more rural tailored and more appropriate for these kind of regions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Hema. I'm not sure if someone has any questions right now about the presentation. Okay, maybe I can start off with a question also, which is pretty basic, but I wanted to ask if there are any data on that or not, because you mentioned about ecological education, and I think education is important in any subject or area. And so do you think that there is already visible way in which these events and workshops are molding the way these children and young people are looking at the territory? Do you think that they are making a difference?
I don't have a concrete data on if they actually do have an influence, but from what I heard from the organizers of these workshops, they definitely emphasize that they are making a lot by just spending time in the nature, showing them different types of how they can actually contribute to this ecological awareness. And I think it's going to be more word about it, especially now that we are also dealing with illegal waste and chemical industry. So there is a big problem in this region. It's very rich in its natural heritage, but now we are facing all these unfortunately, all these events that could actually endanger it. So yeah, they are making a lot of workshops, and also starting from the kindergartens, which is especially important to start actually from young ages and to spread that awareness. So I can conclude that we are going to see these results in the next years. Yeah, how they are growing up and if they are actually implementing everything they learned.
Yes, I agree with you. Thank you. So again, if anyone else has no questions, maybe we can go further to the final presentation. So now we will have another great opportunity to hear a presentation from Irene Cristoforidi. She is a postdoctoral researcher at Hellenic Mediterranean University, and she holds a PhD in agricultural science. She serves as a head of the plant production department at the HMU experimental farm and as a part-time lecturer in ecology in the postgraduate program of the Department of Agriculture. Irene's expertise includes native Mediterranean flora and forest ecosystems, biodiversity conservation, ecosystem services, organic farming, and the use of abiotic stress-tolerant plant species, and nature-based solutions in urban green infrastructure. So our presentation is entitled From Ecosystem Sustainability to Island Resilience, Safeguarding Small Medium Islands in Climate Vulnerable Territories. And the presentation will focus on small and medium-sized islands face growing pressures from climate change, land use transformations, and biodiversity loss, while remaining highly dependent on ecosystem services for societal well-being. By bridging together scientists, policymakers, and practitioners, SMILE's cost actions aims to foster evidence-based solutions, nature-based approaches, and policy-relevant insights to support resilient and sustainable island futures. And now I will let Irene explain in her great words the presentation.
Thank you, Margarita. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations to Emma and Elena for the great presentation that they had. Please let me know if you can see my full screen of my presentation, full screen. Yes?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So our cost action is the SMILES. SMILES cost action, as already Margarita told us about, and we are going to talk more about islands, small and medium-sized islands, because islands are isolated pieces of land, limited in resources. Islands greatly depend on ecosystem services provided on their land or from the surrounding, and provide important services that reach beyond their boundaries. Despite their importance and vulnerability, research on the ecosystem services and ecosystem services assessment are still underrepresented. This one also one of the goals of our cost action. This cost action is about to end this year, 2026, and during the past years we had a collaborative network of science and policy experts and facilitate a cross-disciplinary research network that was integrated social and eco-social disciplines. We generated new career opportunities, training, a lot of training schools during these past years with SMILES cost action. And we provided a platform for collaboration and knowledge exchange. Part of this platform is also online on our website. And the opportunity, of course, to develop campaigns for raising societal awareness on the network of outcomes and the importance of islands across different age groups, from students to all members of society. 6 working groups were involved in this cost action, of course, working for assessment, identification, policy, and impact. And more or less, you can see here on this slide our 6 working group working on natural capital assessment, services of small, medium islands, effects of land use and climate changes, which is about to present later, nature-based solutions for safeguarding ecosystem services of small and medium islands, policy and governance, and of course dissemination, participatory and user-centered design processes, with a few workshops and also many meetings with stakeholders. During these years, we had the opportunity to publish a few papers, and more are submitted waiting for the results. And I'm going to present you the work that we had on environmental impact assessment review. The land use climate change biodiversity nexus in European islands stakeholders. Environmental change, particularly climate and land use changes, has significant impacts on biodiversity, economy, and society. To promote climate adaptation and mitigation strategies, it is crucial to understand the perspectives and knowledge gaps of stakeholders involved in functions affected by or addressing land use and climate change. With the working group 3 and 4, we prepared a questionnaire started on January 2024, and this questionnaire involved questions to trying to find out the perceptions of the local stakeholders. A few of the questions were, and the most important were, what are the climatic features that best quantify climate change risk in your area, your island? What are the land use features that best quantify land use change, of course? And what are the climate and land use change induced risks on ecosystem services, and how severe is the risk according to their perception? What are the main environmental, societal, and economic risks in everyday life, and how severe is the risk? What are the main explanatory factors of a negative, unknown, or neutral perception of climate change and land use change risk impact? Questionnaires either answered online or during personal interviews with 737 stakeholders from 21 different islands or archipelagos of 12 European countries. And those islands from those islands participants stakeholders participated on this questionnaire, you can see with the red color on your screen. More or less, these 21 European islands and the most big islands were Crete, Cyprus, Sardinia, Rhodes, Naxos, and of course many others from Poland, Portugal, Spain, Turkey, and Malta, Norway. And as you can see on this map here, we had stakeholders participated from north, south, east, and west places in Europe, tried to be more representative as possible. According to climate change features, most stakeholders identified temperature, followed by precipitation, wind, and humidity as the most predominant climate characteristics under change on their island. Acidification and sea level rise were reported least frequently in the European islands investigated. According to land use change, stakeholders ranked deforestation as the most common land use change issue, followed by coastal degradation and urban expansion. Renewable energy facilities as solar and wind were the fourth most reported issue, with insufficient habitat protection ranked fifth. Rewilding or reforestation was also considered a concern. Climate change and land use change risk, as we can see a few of the results. Agriculture was the second highest risk, followed by biodiversity loss. The risk to island ecosystem services with the most severe risk score and the highest mean risk score. Infrastructure damage, invasive species, and tourism posed moderate risks, while the lowest risks were associated with carbon sequestration, diseases, pollination, and recreation. Climate change and land use change impacts. Responses showed that 62.8% of stakeholders perceived climate change impacts on ecosystem services as negative. For land use change, 54.4% indicated negative impacts also. Machine learning analysis showed that stakeholders associated negative climate change impacts primarily with habitat destruction and biodiversity loss, followed by invasive species, overexploitation, water issues, and urban expansion. As we mentioned, agriculture, soil degradation, pollination, and coastal degradation were also significant factors. Unclear climate change impacts were most linked to biodiversity loss, habitat destruction, and water issues. Additional factors included carbon sequestration, recreation, invasive species, agriculture, urban expansion, soil degradation, and energy-related risks, with a classification accuracy of 61.9%. Neutral perceptions of climate change impacts were tied to overexploitation and invasive species, followed by carbon sequestration, pollination, resource extraction, and pollution. There were insufficient stakeholder responses to derive meaningful model coefficient for positive climate change impacts. You can see here a few of the results related to importance of climate change impact assessment by island stakeholders, small and medium-sized island stakeholders. And according to land use change impacts analysis for land use change, machine learning analysis highlighted coastal degradation, biodiversity loss, pollution, and infrastructure damage as the primary factors driving negative impacts. Other contributors included invasive species, economic growth, deforestation, and recreation-related issues, alongside resource extraction, financial austerity, overexploitation, and water scarcity were also mentioned. The classification accuracy for these findings was 62.8%. Unclear perceptions of land use change impacts were most associated with rewilding, urban expansion, and austerity, followed by recreation policy changes and wetland risks. Those were a few of our findings, as you can see here, already published. And according to the results, climate change is more perceived by warmer temperatures. Land use change more perceived by deforestation. Water scarcity and water-related risks are top priorities for stakeholders, and addressing these issues is crucial for a sustainable future. Energy-related risks such as energy deficiency, but also wind and solar energy facilities problems rank high as combined climate change and land use change risks. Stakeholders perceived climate change impacts on ecosystem services as negative. Natural habitat, destruction, and biodiversity loss identified as the top risks. Land use change impacts are also negative, but more complex to explain. Stakeholders have sufficiently common perceptions despite geographic disparity. Also, here we highlighted a few of the nature-based solutions to address climate and societal challenges in small and medium-sized islands. As you can see, we worked also on literature review, and now we are preparing a few policy briefs to highlight our findings. This research helped us understand the perspectives and knowledge gaps of stakeholders involved in businesses affected by or facing land use and climate change. With SMILES Cost Action, we are one step closer to create successful climate adaptation or mitigation strategies that promote climate resilience. Before closing my presentation, I would like to remind you that there is an ongoing SMILES conference on 24 and 25 June in Brussels, and you are very welcome in this conference. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Irene. So we have some questions in the group chat. from Cristiano. You can read them. I can read them also. What type of stats did you use in the machine learning analysis?
Different in different papers. We can discuss further about it. Maybe Margarita could provide you my email, and I could give you more information in addition, because we also had many different papers.
Yes, I'll do that. And the other question is also from Cristiano, and it is, what do you mean by insufficient stakeholder responses? How many would be sufficient?
Some questions, they couldn't respond to all the stakeholders because we had some separated. We had also from agriculture, from policy making. You can find more information about those on the papers because we had separated different questions for different stakeholders, and for few of them they were not sufficient enough. We have more or less more than 30 people from each island. In some islands were bigger, we had more than 70 people and 90 people in some of them, 90 stakeholders. But we tried, as I showed you in the map, we tried to have representatives from the islands that participated in this research.
So I will give your contact to Cristiano, and you can also talk about it.
Yes, of course, please. And I can provide you also the links of the papers, and maybe you could have more information from there, or I will please to happy to answer whatever you like.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I have a small question to Irene. That is, what do you think local communities think about the change risk, and are they trying to be more involved in the local policies? What do you think with the...
Few of them, yes, few others, no. That was a challenge and a surprise for us. As I told you, many of the questions were conducted not online, but in person. So we had the opportunity to communicate with the locals. So most of them were afraid about the temperature that is higher and higher every year. But some others working on tourism, for example, they are very happy because the good weather season will be bigger now, and more customers will arrive even in winter. People are more from the people that we had some also other answers. Most of them were willing to communicate and participate in common policy making strategies, but not all of them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer. I'm not sure if anyone else has any question also for the other presentations. Okay, so if anyone else has any question, I think I want to thank all of you for participating and for the engagement in this session. I also want to sincerely thank the incredible speakers, Elena, Irene, and Emma. You were amazing. And also everyone else for participating in the session as well. And I think with this, we can conclude the workshop, and I hope to see you all in future events. And I can also send contacts from the speakers to all of you. If you want, just send me an email or something, and I'll let you know. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah,
Nice to
thank
see
you.
you.
Thank you, Ana. Nice to
Bye.
see you all.